It's been a quiet summer for the Miami Heat. Norman Powell is the star acquisition for Eric Spoelstra's roster after enjoying a stellar campaign for Ty Lue's LA Clippers last season. Unfortunately, Powell is unlikely to become a leading star for the Heat. Instead, he will be a high-level member of the starting lineup who can shine in a well-defined role. And it's for that reason that ESPN's Tim Legler, speaking via the All-NBA podcast, doesn't believe we will see much improvement from the Heat next season. Legler envisions Miami to be a team that wins around 38 or 39 games next season. With such a low win total, Legler's projection is likely suggesting that Miami's overall ceiling remains low, compared to that of a genuine contending roster. He's going to bring something to their team because he had his best year of his career offensively, Legler said. He's always been a guy who plays hard defensively. I guess on that alone, maybe you think there's an uptick because they were at 37 last year. They add Norman Powell, so you think 38.5 should do it. You know what it is for me? I think I'm just a little bit bored with the Heat. Legler continued. I'm going to go under, and I will probably be wrong on that because they won 37 and they added Norman Powell, Legler continued. That alone should be enough, and Kel'el Ware had a very good rookie year. Maybe he just comes out of the gate like a monster. As currently constructed, the Heat should be good enough to challenge for a spot in the playoffs, or at worst, the play-in tournament. However, they lack an elite talent to spearhead the charge for a championship. Therefore, their overall ceiling will likely be a first-round or, at best, a second-round exit in the postseason. Heat's Adebayo is pleased Davion Mitchell re-signed. During his annual youth basketball clinic, Bam Adebayo spoke to the media in attendance. One of the topics he touched on was that Davion Mitchell had signed a new contract with the franchise. The new deal will see him earn $24 million over the next 2 years. Mitchell impressed for the Heat after joining the franchise midway through the season following a trade with the Toronto Raptors. His hard-nosed and gritty approach to defense fits perfectly in Spoelstra's system. Davion being back, obviously, we've been missing somebody that can really play on-ball defense, Adebayo said. And having him come in and be that guy and understand his role, I'm looking forward to him being here for a full year and all of us being together and getting to know one another and turning this into more of a brotherhood. We were kind of disconnected a little bit trying to figure out everybody's role and trying to figure out everybody's style of play. But now we're going to have a good training camp, and then we go from there. Mitchell thrives when guarding at the point of attack. He can navigate screens at speed and does a great job of keeping offensive players out of rhythm by getting into the ball with aggression. He will lead by example when it comes to trying to implement a lockdown defensive mentality. Heat pleased to have landed Kasparas Giacchionis. During a recent conversation with Keith Smith of Spotrac, a member of the Heat's front office explained why the franchise is excited about landing Kasparas Giacchionis in the 2025 NBA draft. I'm not going to tell you where he was on our board, but it was a heck of a lot higher than where we picked him, the anonymous executive told Smith. The great thing about Cass is that he wasn't very good in California, and he was mad about that. Here, Las Vegas, he was much better. That's what will work for him in the NBA. He's not going to settle for anything other than being great. Miami has struggled to find a reliable ball handler and playmaker in recent years. And while Giacchionis will take time to develop, his style of play could resolve one of the biggest issues within the Heat's overall roster construction. Long-term, Giacchionis could prove to be Miami's most important pickup of the 2025 offseason. It hasn't been a particularly eventful offseason for the Miami Heat, who swung a nice trade for wing Norman Powell but still figure to be several tiers below legitimate contention in the Eastern Conference. The Heat have been mired in NBA purgatory for a couple of years now, not bad enough to tank but not good enough to compete, and it's unclear how that will change anytime soon. This offseason, some fans wanted to see the team move on from wing Andrew Wiggins, who the Heat acquired as part of the Jimmy Butler deal at last year's trade deadline. Recently, Clutch Point's Brett Siegel reported that this offseason, the Miami Heat were willing to discuss trade scenarios involving Andrew Wiggins, and several teams expressed interest in the former NBA champion and All-Star wing, sources said. The Milwaukee Bucks, league sources said, were one of the teams to inquire about Wiggins. However, nothing ever ended up materializing on the Wiggins front, due to the fact that the Heat were only willing to deal Wiggins if they received an instant impact player, along with an upcoming first-round pick before 2028, per Siegel. At this point, it's unclear if Wiggins would be worth a first-round pick in and of itself, let alone an instant impact player on top of that. A strange Heat team. While there's no doubting Pat Riley's place as a legendary figure in NBA history, he hasn't exactly been doing his legacy a favor with the way that he's handled these last couple of seasons in Miami. In 2023, the Heat shockingly made the NBA Finals, led by Jimmy Butler and a motley crew of role players who collectively picked the same 2 months to have the best stretches of their careers. Since then, Miami has not made any real moves to try to get over the championship hump and have instead watched their relationship with Butler disintegrate. While Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo are nice third or fourth options on contending teams, it's unclear at this juncture how the Heat plan to get legitimate star talent back in their locker room, as the allure of Heat culture appears to have now evaporated. Pat Riley would grant the Miami Heat fans' wishes if he were to strike a deal for a superstar player in the next 2 seasons. There's one interesting proposed trade for LeBron James that should pique the interest of both fans and the Heat's front office. Miami Heat fans are dying for a superstar. Even though it's been less than a year since the Jimmy Butler saga, he was pretty clearly checked out long before. With the way that ended, the Heat's fans have a bad taste in their mouths and are dying for the opportunity of relevance again. LeBron could offer that to the Heat. Add in the fact that LeBron remains one of the most realistic targets for the team, especially with Luka Doncic and De'Aaron Fox signing contract extensions before they could even hit the free agency market in 2026, and it's not that outlandish an idea as it seems. If there's a natural path toward a LeBron reunion in Miami, I'm sure the fans would embrace it. Interestingly enough, there's at least one proposed trade that would make a ton of sense for the Heat. The proposed trade for LeBron James. In this proposed trade by Bleacher Report, the Heat would send Andrew Wiggins, Terry Rozier, Jamie Jaquez Jr., a 2029 first-round pick, and a 2030 first-round pick swap, top 3 protected, to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for LeBron, Bronny James, and Dalton Knecht. If the Heat were able to pry LeBron away from Los Angeles by only parting ways with 1 first-round pick and a pick swap, I'm not sure how they'd be able to pass on this idea. LeBron is still playing at a high level and would be an intriguing addition next to Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo. Why LeBron is a viable target? LeBron is the exact type of alpha player that the Heat have desperately missed since Jimmy's injuries began to become a bigger problem for him over the last few seasons, and LeBron would have a pretty strong supporting cast with 2 all-star caliber players in Herro and Bam. In a much less competitive conference, LeBron heading east for one last shot at a title could also make a ton of sense for him. Even though I still can't wrap my head around why LeBron would willingly leave Luka Doncic, if LeBron does want to leave Los Angeles, Miami does check a lot of his boxes. Not to mention it's a landing spot that would also be in the best interest of his son, Bronny. At the very least, it's one storyline to keep a close eye on heading into the start of the season. If things do go south in Los Angeles, maybe Riley explores the idea of stepping in? One thing's for sure, if this were to happen, it would certainly appease the Heat fan base, even if it is just for a year or 2.